What if we look at the consequent, okay? Just like we could affirm the antecedent and we could deny the antecedent, we can do the same thing with the consequent. What happens if we deny the consequent? What does that tell us about the antecedent? Well, let's look at an example, one that we've met before. We saw Dimetrodon in an earlier video. So here's an argument. If Dimetrodon was a dinosaur, then it had its legs under its body. Antecedent dinosaur, consequent legs under body. Well, we can tell by observation that no, Dimetrodon did not have its legs under its body. What we're doing here is we are denying the consequent. The consequent is legs under its body. Dimetrodon did not have its legs under its body. Can we therefore conclude that Dimetrodon was not a dinosaur? Well, yes, we can, because to be a dinosaur, you had to have your legs under your body. This creature does not have its legs under its body, therefore it could not have been a dinosaur. So this gives us 100% certainty about some fact about concerned with the antecedent. Now, what if we can affirm the consequent? Will that tell us anything with certainty about the antecedent? Well, let's look again at a simple argument. If Kepler is a cat, then Kepler has claws. We affirm the consequent. Yes, Kepler has claws. Does that tell us with 100% certainty that Kepler is a cat? Obviously not, because Kepler could be any other animal that has claws, like a bear. And so simply saying, well, Kepler is a cat because Kepler has claws is an invalid argument. You have 0% certainty about whether or not that conclusion that Kepler is a cat is true. Let me give you one more example to make sure that you're getting this. Okay? If Mr. Tors is a gorilla, then Mr. Tors has hair. Yes, Mr. Tors has hair, less than he used to, but yes, Mr. Tors has hair. We can affirm the consequent. Therefore, Mr. Tors is a gorilla? Watch out. Watch your answer here. Obviously not. Again, many other creatures have hair besides gorillas. So again, this is a logical fallacy. We call it affirming the consequent. And it's a logical fallacy because it looks like it's giving us 100% certainty. It looks like it's telling us something, like it's giving us reason to believe something, but it's really not. Okay, one more. Remember this one. I started off the deductive fallacies with this. Stars give off light. My cell phone gives off light. Therefore, my cell phone is a star. And obviously, this is not true. But why is it not true? What's the problem with the reasoning here? Well, let's put it into if-then format. The antecedent is being a star, because the claim here is stars give off light. If you're a star, you give off light. It's not necessarily true that if you give off light, you are a star. So star is the antecedent and light is the consequent. If my cell phone is a star, then it will give off light. Yes, my cell phone gives off light, therefore my cell phone is a star. What we have done here is we have affirmed the consequent, and as we saw, affirming the consequent is logically invalid. It does not give you a reason to believe that the antecedent is true. So in this case, if we're looking at the consequent, there are again two possibilities. If the consequent is true, if we can affirm the consequent, then the antecedent may or may not also be true. We don't know. We have 0% certainty from that particular argument, and this argument is invalid. On the other hand, If the consequent is false, if we can demonstrate that the consequent is false and we can deny the consequent, then we know with 100% certainty that the antecedent must also be false. And then this makes for a valid argument. To sum up really briefly in this chart, there are 4 ways that you can make an argument of this sort, dealing with the 2 parts of the argument, the antecedent and the consequent. If you affirm the antecedent, yes, the antecedent is true, then what do you know about the consequent? You know with 100% certainty that the consequent must also be true. So this is a valid way of arguing. On the other hand, if you deny the antecedent, no, the antecedent is not true, that actually doesn't tell you anything about the consequent. The consequent may also be false, but it may be true. And so you have 0% certainty of your conclusion from this argument, and this is invalid. It's a logical fallacy. What about the consequent? If you affirm the consequent, that means the consequent is true. What does that tell you about the antecedent? It doesn't tell you anything about the antecedent. The antecedent may be true or the antecedent may be false. So how much certainty do you have in believing the antecedent? You have 0%, and this is an invalid way of trying to prove a point. And finally, if we deny the consequent is false, then we know that the antecedent must also be false. We know that with 100% certainty, and so this is a valid way of arguing. The 2 valid arguments are to affirm the antecedent or deny the consequent. The 2 invalid logical fallacies in arguing are to deny the antecedent or to affirm the consequent.